And I'm using solid oak, but I haven't laminated this myself. So those who know these sorts of things will observe that this hasn't really been done right, because the growth rings, those curves of the growth rings should really alternate to balance out the board more. So it means that these boards are going to be a bit prone to cupping. The tensos, they really are only designed for glued joints. Now people do use them for other things, but Lamello officially would say the purpose of them is to hold a joint until the glue goes off. We have used them with some success on these L-shaped assemblies. Back to what we're doing. So this width is borderline. I could maybe have used just 2 fixings. I went for 3 because I'm keen for it to pull tight. I'm experimenting with tensos and Clamex in the middle. I know this board is tending to want to cup that way, so I'm thinking if the pulling force happens in the middle, then the tensos will be sufficient. It's going to be an experiment. Yeah, so we line them up. It should just pop on. Just like that. So you can see it's not like it's a massively strong join with the tensos, but it's good enough for a glue joint. And when the glue goes off, if you were gluing, it would end up rock solid. The Clamex is like a cam lock that's going to really pull in. So that does feel more solid. We tend to stick with these screws as much as possible. Well, this length of screw, actually this is the fine thread variation, but this length of 32mm screw, we usually stick with it because otherwise we're spending time changing settings on the Foreman, which is possible to do, but there's always a risk then that the next person coming to it assumes it's set up for 18mm stock and 32mm screws, and if it had been changed to something different, then you've got a problem. So we find for most of what we do, it works to just keep that setting. Strictly though, you're ending up with the screw, whereas ideally it would sort of exit the thickness of the board in the center. If you keep with the system designed for a thinner board, it sort of exits a little off center. So there's a risk that it then tightens slightly eccentrically and the board may tip a little bit. But when everything's pulled together, actually that's usually fine. The fine thread variation of the Kreg screw is what you're meant to use for hardwood because it should be less prone to splitting the wood.